Greetings. This is Minister Michael Muhammad, founder of the New Black Leadership Coalition, coming to you with our next offering on the subject of New Black Leadership. We have thus far talked to you about the definition of New Black Leadership, how we in the New Black Leadership Coalition define this phrase, this terminology, New Black Leadership. We've given you a very specific definition of that in our first YouTube offering. So if you haven't checked it out and you're catching this video, please go back down the timeline of the New Black Leadership Coalition's Facebook page, or look us up on YouTube to review the meaning of the New Black Leadership. And we offer that in advance of talking about the 13 principles of New Black Leadership, the 13 cardinal or prime principles of New Black Leadership, of knowing how to define, how to filter, how to determine whether or not you yourself or someone who you view as a leader qualifies as New Black Leadership. And so after that, we talked about the first principle of the 13, sincerity. So today I want to talk about number 2, the second of the 13 principles of New Black Leadership. The second principle is self-love. After sincerity, one must have true self-love. Now, self-love is talked about a lot in the so-called conscious community because self-love is so critical. But self-love is a fundamental of psychological construction for any people, no matter their skin color, no matter their ethnicity, no matter their nationality, no matter whatever labels or trappings they are a part of, social trappings. Self-love is fundamental to a basic state of health, a basic state of mental, emotional, psychological, physical, and spiritual health. Without self-love, the ability to love yourself. And I'm going to talk very briefly about what we mean when we say the ability to love oneself. This is underrated, cannot be overstated, but there are some boundaries that we need to speak about quickly when we talk about self-love. When we are void of self-love, then we're void of the ability, the capability, the desire, the motivation, the feelings or urges required to take care of oneself. So for instance, if I don't have a healthy sense of regard for my image, then I don't have the thought, I don't have the urge, I don't have the motivation. Therefore, I don't take the action, I don't develop habits and behavior out of a sense of regard for my self-image. So that means I will be unkept, I will be ungroomed, I will be in a state of dishevelment or personal image disorganization, and I will not care whether or not my hair is groomed appropriately. I will not care about my facial hairs. I will not care about the cleanliness of my face. I will not care about the cleanliness of my garments. And so I will move about in the world in a way that is unkept, So self-love is that which allows us to care for ourselves in the ways that require us to pay attention to our own uniqueness as an individual. So that means if I have a certain quality of hair, then I must learn. The deeper my love is, the more motivated I am to learn how to care for the kind of hair that I possess, for its proper care, its proper cleanliness, its proper maintenance, its health, etc., etc., etc. So based upon my body type, I will have to seek information on how to care for that body type, because there may be parts of my body that require unique or special attention. And so self-love is that which would motivate me to get that information and engage in that kind of behavior that will keep me clean, healthy, and in a good state with regard to my physical self. So we can take this down the stratum of the aspects of the human condition, whether that's mental, emotional, right, or spiritual, and the physical. So self-love is critical to one's ability to being healthy. So this is why you often hear people speak about obesity with a negative connotation, because excess body weight suggests a lack of self-care. Now, don't get offended. Just follow what I'm trying to say in helping to draw a picture about what self-love really is. So if I allow my stomach to bulge, then it says that I'm not exercising enough. It says that I am maybe eating late. It says that maybe I'm not careful about the quality and kinds of foods that I eat, and therefore my body, there's a law that produces, there's a biological law that produces body fat, and so it's a state of ill health. It's a state of neglect. And so we can look at the self and see, the physical self, and see how well I care for my physical self. This is just a fundamental truth. So I don't want to alienate you by talking about obesity. I'm just using it as an example to talk about self-love. When I care for my car, then I'm constantly washing my car, wax my car, I vacuum my car. I may armor all the tires. I may get down and scrub the rims. I may do all manner of things to keep maintenance on my car based upon my affection for that car, my interest in that car. So self-love is always like that. It's manifest toward your personal self in the level of care that you put in toward yourself. You protect yourself, you feed yourself, you nurture yourself, you hydrate yourself, you educate and inform yourself, you rest yourself. You do all of these things out of a sense of self-worth, self-value, or self-love. So now, the self-love being the second of the 13 principles of New Black Leadership means that in order to qualify as a leader, you must have first a sense of individual self-love in a healthy portion. I'm going to say that again, in a healthy portion. So an unhealthy portion, I've already talked about self-neglect. But the other end of that, when your self-love is unhealthy and becomes dysfunctional or disease, is when you begin to think more of yourself than you should. You think so much of yourself that you believe your individual self is more valuable or more important than the leader or as a leader than the constituency, the community, or the people that you claim to speak for or represent. Now your self-love has grown into vanity. It has grown into conceit. It has grown into narcissism. And so you're in love with yourself, and you begin now to neglect your responsibilities to the larger body of people who have entrusted you or accepted you or even elected you to speak on their behalf, to advocate on their behalf, to perform some demonstration of responsibility to them. So self-love must be proportional in order to be healthy. So we need black leaders who have a sense not only of individual self-love, but they love the uniqueness of themselves as a black person. And when I say black person, I'm not talking about culture. I'm talking about the fundamental biological truth of being in possession of melanin in a high level that produces melanated skin. It makes you black or brown or some derivation thereof. So we know we've all been, many of us, like myself, our families have been corrupted biologically through the interaction of the slave master's children and the slave master. But again, biologically, the dark germ is always dominant over the lighter germ, which is always considered recessive. And this is why in slavery, they had the law of the maroon, the mulatto, the octoroon, the such and such and so based upon some attempt to measure the degree by which you still possess that dark germ, that original biological germ, if you will, in biological terms. So when I say self-love for black leadership, I'm talking about a black person who fundamentally looks in the mirror at themselves or looks out of their own eyes at their physical self and feels a sense of gratification. It feels a sense of warmth, feels a sense of worth, feels a sense of pride, feels a sense of gratitude toward the Creator that you, when you look at yourself, you are black. You are black by nature. Whether in fact you're deep black or a fair-skinned black, but you know you're a black person. You look at your physical self and you take esteem from being black. You're not ashamed of the blackness of your skin. You're not discomfortable with the blackness of your skin. You do not seek out means and methodology to deny, to ignore, or to rationalize away your blackness, your physical blackness. You take some stock of that and you appreciate your stock in being black. So when we talk about self-love, we're talking about black leadership that understand that they should not espouse non-black images to black children and black people. So whether you're black from the South, or whether you're black from the East Coast, or black from the Western states, or you're a black who came and migrated directly from the continent of Africa, your personal self or your parents, or maybe even your grandparents, wherever you derive your origin from on this planet. You could be from Europe, you could be from Australia, you could be from Central or South America, you could be from the Isles of the Caribbean. It doesn't really matter, because as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Marcus Garvey taught us, black is universal. We are the original people on the planet. We derive this blackness. This blackness is inherent to the creation of the universe. So we're talking about blackness no matter where it emerges from. In order to qualify as a new black leader, you have a sense of self-love that is tied to your ability to love and take pleasure out of what you see on your skin or of your skin, and the features of yourself, your broad nose, your thick lips, the kinkiness of your hair or the curliness of your hair, etc. These things that are unique to melanated people all over the planet, you get a sense of inner gratification and satisfaction when you see yourself. This is what we mean by self-love. You're not trying to bleach it. You're not trying to blonde it. You're not trying to blue it. You're not trying to purple it or red it. You're not trying to destroy your blackness. You're not trying to erase your blackness because you love it and you know the worth, or you're learning the worth and value of your blackness and your black self. So if you do not have self-love, then you cannot lead black people into the new era or millennium that is coming into being as we speak. Those of us who do not love our blackness, those of us who do not possess this real quality of self-love, we have nullified our right to speak on behalf of the masses of black people who need to be loved, and we can't love them if we don't love ourselves because of our blackness. We'll never be able to feed them, lead them, advocate for them, fight for them, and protect them effectively, because our enemy is against them simply because of the blackness of their skin. So if you are speaking that you live in a colorblind society, you don't qualify as new black leadership. If you believe that diversity means you must be colorblind, then your irrational mind, that irrational thought process, that false irrational belief disqualifies you as being an effective leader, and it absolutely disqualifies you as being a new black leader, because you cannot claim to be in a state of ill health and then redefined it as health. In other words, being colorblind is a malfunction of the natural process of sight that 99.9% of all human beings possess the ability to see some level of color. Since the Creator created color, since the universe, no matter where you go, is full of color, to now assert that as human beings in our interactions, especially in a white male racist society, that we should no longer see color, you have disqualified yourself completely, totally, and absolutely as a new black leadership. Even if you sit right now as an elected official, even if you sit right now as a corporate head, even if you sit right now as a coach over black athletes, even if you sit right now as a father or a mother over black children in a black household, you disqualify yourself from one of the fundamental qualities you need to be effective in assisting the rise of freedom, justice, and equality on this planet. You're operating from a delusional state of mind. I know you may disagree with me, but you need to seek counseling from a competent counselor who will speak the truth about you, about the nature of irrational thoughts and irrational beliefs, and how they produce irrational behaviors and negative outcomes. And this is what we're living with as a community of black people, is we're living with the negative outcomes of so-called people in front of us who call themselves leaders, but they are completely inept and completely ineffective in dealing with our condition. So the 13 principles of new black leadership. Number one, again, is sincerity. And I've been speaking you today about number two, and that's the fundamental principle, the fundamental quality we must possess to lead black people moving forward, is a sense of self-love. So be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself and ask, do you think like whites? Do you want to be white? Do you want to rule like white people? Do you want to govern like white people? Do you make rules like white people? Do you fight for and advocate for the maintenance of rules that come out of a Eurocentric thought process, this is a byproduct of not having self-love. Think about it. Thank you all for listening to this video. I tried to be as brief as I could, but we will talk more on these principles as we move along and do our work in the community, trying to organize black leadership, effective and true new black leadership throughout the black community in Chicago and abroad. Thank you, and peace and blessings.